My audio was messed up for the first few minutes of this video, so sorry guys, it'll get better after the first few minutes. I just sat and wasted 3 hours of my Sunday watching the Arizona Cardinals play the Los Angeles Rams, and I didn't think the game was going to end up in a win, but boy did I not expect to see what I saw today from the Cardinals. This is probably the worst performance that I have seen from this defense all season long. I am utterly speechless by how bad that this team played today. The offense played good for like the first quarter or so, and then everything suddenly hit the brakes like they didn't know what they were doing anymore. But let's just start off for a second with this horrible defense, who should all be incredibly embarrassed to even consider themselves pro football players at this point. The Rams are one of the best teams in the NFC and one of the best teams in the NFL. I get it. But they were getting literally anything that they wanted all game long. There were wide open receivers on nearly every single play. The Rams were averaging nearly 10 yards every single play. In the first half, the Rams had 1 third down. They didn't even need a third down because they were getting first downs on first and second down. Every pass completion, there was nobody within 1 or 2 yards of the receiver that caught the football. Wide open catches left and right. Every simple rushing play was going for 10 or more yards. We had a brief lead in the first quarter. That disappeared quickly, but we then tied the game up 10-10, and that was the last time we would ever look at that score ever again in this game, as the Rams railed off 35 more points. The offense stopped moving the ball in any way whatsoever, and the defense looked like dog crap the entire time. I've never seen a defense play this badly in the NFL. Are you even professional football players? Because you don't deserve to be called professional football players right now. The amount of effort or lack thereof that we saw in this game just makes me sick. One of the touchdown passes in this game, there were 2 Cardinals defenders standing in the middle of the field right next to each other guarding nobody, and the one defender who was on the receiver was Johnson. Budda Baker was one of those 2 guys that was standing there with nobody. He tries to jump up with his short self to try to bat the ball down. It goes like 3 yards over his head, obviously, because he's tiny, and then it gets caught by the receiver for the Rams. Then Johnson has about 7 yards to try to make a tackle, but does he try to make a tackle? No. He just tries to strip the ball 2 or 3 times, and then just kind of lets the guy walk into the end zone for a touchdown. No effort to even try to tackle him on the play. How about the play late in the game when the Rams just decided they wanted to start running the football and running the clock out, and they started with the ball on the 48 of the Cardinals, and on the very first play, no Cardinals defender even touched the running back for a touchdown. He ran right through the A gap, which is just a runoff right basically up the middle. There was a 2 to 3 yard gap between any Cardinals defender because they had gotten pushed down to the ground by the offensive line. So the running back runs straight through there, and he doesn't even get touched all the way to the end zone. Not a single defender made an effort. Not a single defender was even there, remotely even trying to make the tackle on the play. The Rams were trying to run the clock out, and they got a 48-yard touchdown on the first play of that drive on a handoff up the middle. And that game put a basically impossible score to come back from and made it absolutely impossible to come back from. Not to mention, at the same damn time, the Cardinals decided to punt the football away at midfield when every single drive needed to be a touchdown. There's no reason to give the Rams the football back on the 20 when they're just going to score regardless of where they get the football back. You're already down by 4 possessions. Go for the 4th and 5 and try to get the first down. The team has already given up on you, Drew Petzing. The team has already given up on the D coordinator, and the team has already given up on Jonathan Gannon. And all those coaches should have been fired 3 or 4 weeks ago, but they absolutely should be fired today. There is no more excuses for this owner to keep this coaching staff around. And the fact that the coaching staff doesn't want to make a decision to get rid of one of the coordinators and keep the head coach means that the head coach should also be gone as well. This isn't about people's jobs. These coaches are making plenty of money. No more listening to John Gambo on Arizona Sports 98.7 FM. Call up the head coach and ask him what his favorite Thanksgiving dessert is anymore. Fire these coaches. Show some accountability. The Rams have Sean McVay. The 49ers have Kyle Shanahan. The Seahawks have their new great head coach as well. And the Cardinals have this dumpster fire of a coaching staff. The Cardinals' running game is absolutely non-existent at this point. Michael Carter and Bam Knight did absolutely nothing this entire game. It's not fully Michael Carter's fault, who should be more involved in the offense, but he wasn't involved in the offense at all. But every time he does get involved in the offense, suddenly is breaking a tackle left and right and making himself look really good, but then doesn't ever see the field again. But Bam Knight Mr. I average 1 yard per carry, Bam Knight, keeps getting all the touches for some reason. Michael Wilson, when he's wide receiver 1, looks absolutely phenomenal. Trey McBride is always a beast. Brissett had really good accuracy until the second half, and suddenly he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Even if a receiver was 4 yards in front of him, he threw the ball to their feet. The entire second half was disgusting. There was a moment when Trey McBride in the fourth quarter broke the ankles of the defender and was wide open in the end zone for a touchdown, and Brissett airmailed the ball 3 yards over his head. People were walking around on the field, lightly jogging, not putting in any effort for tackles, not putting in any effort to pressure the quarterback. We had maybe 2 quarterback pressures for the entire stupid game. Are you kidding me? Stafford's one of the oldest quarterbacks in the NFL, and he has a hurt back, and we couldn't get any QB pressures on him? I know we had Walter Nolan out. I know that we had Max Melton out. I know that Demerson was out as well. We still had Budda Baker. We still had Johnson. We still had Calais Campbell. We still had Sweat. Where were you guys? Where was Zaven Collins? There's a lot of good names on this defense. Where were you guys? The Rams were basically playing a scrimmage today where they just got whatever they wanted at will, and they just enjoyed it, every second of it, because it was like playing a backyard drill. The entire fourth quarter was a preseason football game because while we were playing the 2s, they were playing us 1s. It was the Cardinals starters versus the Rams backups. Jimmy Garoppolo got to play the entire fourth quarter. Everyone give a round of applause for him because the game was so out of reach at that point that all the 2s for the Rams just came in. In fact, the Cardinals couldn't even score on that final drive when they were in the red zone against the 2s for the Rams. The 1s of the Cardinals couldn't score versus the 2s of the Rams. There are only 2 players on this team right now that I think that are untouchable that you should not trade, and that's Michael Wilson, who looks incredible when he's wide receiver 1 for the Cardinals, and Trey McBride. Give that man any amount of money that you could possibly give him and build the offense around that beast of a sexy man that we call a tight end. I don't care about anybody else on this team staying other than Walter Nolan and Johnson, who you got defensively in the draft this year. I want those 2 to stay around and see if we can develop them to be a little bit better past their rookie contracts and maybe try to build the defense around those 2 guys. No one else on this defense is untouchable for me. I think it's time for Budda Baker to get out of town and go find a team he can maybe win with. I think it is time for everything to get blown up in this team. Blow it up and try to do it again because it's always another rebuild. Let's rebuild again for 3 more years and then rebuild again for 3 more years, but it starts with the coaching staff and this ownership. The ownership who needs to sell the team. Nothing's gonna get better with this ownership unless they can actually, for once in their damn life, make a decision to hire a GM and a head coach that are gonna win you some football games. Get yourself a quarterback that's gonna win you some football games. And since the QB draft class now isn't looking so hot for this next season, since we're clearly kicking Kyler Murray to the curb and saying bye-bye Kyler, have fun with the Dolphins or the Vikings or the Browns, I was speechless, at a loss for words for this disgusting excuse for a football team. I felt embarrassment through the live stream I was doing on my channel during the game. And if it weren't for the live stream, I would have stopped watching the game at halftime. But I actually care about my channel doing well. So thank you to all of you who have subscribed. I gained 2 subscribers to get to 210 during the live stream. That was absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for all of you who watched and every single person who tuned in and hung out with me during that atrocity of a football game. Subscribing is free. Liking this video is free. Please tell your friends about me so that I can get more people to see the channel as well. This is an Arizona sports channel, and I luckily am not just going to talk about the Cardinals here. I'm going to talk about the Diamondbacks, and man, I cannot wait for the Diamondbacks season to get around here eventually and start up once again. I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm having good weekends, but every time I watch the Cardinals, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm sad. The Cardinals aren't going to win another game this year. They'll probably figure out a way to lose to the Falcons as well, and they'll be one of the top teams, if not the top team in the NFL draft, if the Titans and the Raiders can figure out how to win one more game this year. For the sake of the fans that show up every single week for you guys, even though you don't deserve a single piece of it, you should feel ashamed of yourselves. The players should be hanging their heads low. They should feel embarrassed. You're some sort of sad excuse for a football player wearing a football uniform. Take a long good look in the mirror, and we'll try our darndest to find some players like Trey McBride who give a damn about this football team, or someone like a Larry Fitzgerald who give a damn about this football team and never quit and always hustle game in and game out. Until then though, I guess we'll just have to wait for the last insufferable weeks of this football season while the same coaching staff and same players stay on this team and continue to suck ass. But until then, that's all I have left to say today. I'm completely speechless and at a loss for words. I'm gonna go try to have a good rest of my evening because this team is the only reason I've had in any way a remotely bad day so far. I'll see you very soon in my next video with my Cardinals fans during the Rams game video. All I have left to say is try to have a great rest of your day, and bye-bye.